So while the media has faced an extraordinary degree of censorship from social media companies for reporting on the Wuhan lab leak theory, World Health Organization boss Tedros Adhanom is responsible for much of this misinformation. But today, he's kind of changed his tune.
As you know, I was a lab technician myself. I'm an immunologist, and I have worked in the lab. And lab accidents happen. It's common. I have seen it happening, and I myself had errors. So it can happen. And we need information, direct information on what the situation of these labs was before and at the start of the pandemic.
So, Sophie, not only is the lab leak now a possibility, the World Health Organization is admitting that these leaks are indeed common. So what's led to this remarkable shift in language?
Oh, this is a big step of where they've come now, Jack. I mean, we've had Sharry Markson at the Australian reporting on this for months, copping a lot of criticism about it. But again, the truth will come out, Jack, and we're now starting to see the World Health Organization sit up, take notice and start to make some sense. But again, we run danger in this territory. I mean, as we mentioned before, Paul Barry shutting down this discussion about where the COVID-19 pandemic originated. I mean, again, we need to look at this very closely. This pandemic has impacted every single person's life, and we need to know where on earth it came from and how it got here.
Yeah, and James, what are your thoughts? Obviously, Paul Barry and everything aside, a lot of the misinformation has come straight from the top, from the body that we are supposed to trust with the health advice, and their language has been shady, and we know that there were mistakes made in the early days. What do you make of now the very public shift and the tensions against China?
I don't know. I mean, did some check not clear from the Bank of China to the WHO? I have no idea what's going on there behind the scenes. But seriously, you know, it's not just the WHO. There was a concerted effort at the start of the pandemic with doctors who were involved with the research at Wuhan to shut down any discussion of it coming out of that lab in Wuhan by accident. No one is saying it was a bioweapon that was released deliberately, but that there may have been a lab accident where this made it out of the lab into the general population and then out around the world. Now, we need to know that, and we need to know why the WHO covered that up. We also need to know why did medical journals like The Lancet wind up running these big letters from doctors without any sort of checking, saying there's no way that this came from a lab, when we now know a lot of scientific evidence points to basically details of the genome and all sorts of other things that say this really could not have emerged zoonotically, spontaneously from a bat in a cave somewhere or wherever it may have theoretically have come from. The entire medical establishment, not just the WHO, much of the medical establishment also has a big case to answer, because they went out there as the voice of authority and said, if you talk about this, you're a crank. And then what happened? Well, Facebook, Twitter, all these places all said, if you talk about this, not only are you a crank, but we will deplatform you. I knew that the game had shifted when Facebook said suddenly, and you want to talk about an arbiter of truth even worse than Paul Barry, it's Mark Zuckerberg, that you could actually talk about the lab leak theory and not wind up having your status update canceled or getting sin-binned by Facebook and put into Facebook jail. This is a huge, huge story, and it goes to the heart of the authority in the West and these institutions that have shown themselves time and time again to be rotten.